And then we can sit with the question in that space, where do I connect the most with my authentic power? With the part of me that is unshakable, that it's in alignment with all things and all beings.
How many of you know what yoga really is? And according to Budokan.com, yoga is the concept birthed, like all concepts, from the human imagination. Over 5,000 years ago in northern India, the concept was introduced to mankind through the efforts of early conscious explorers seeking answers to life's most fundamental questions like, who am I? What am I? Why am I? Some pretty important questions. And Budokan is a style of yoga which blends modern yoga style and ancient traditions of self-inquiry with modern mixed movement. Budokan yoga was codified and popularized by Cameron Shane beginning in 2001. And why this is important is because today's guest, Lola Manekin, introduced Budokan yoga to Baltimore. I have an exciting conversation with Lola today. Phenomenal conversation. I'm very excited to share with you guys this conversation of self-exploration, of putting oneself out in the world and just letting the universe guide us and having faith. So let's get this thing started. Let's get after it. This is Your Spare Self, episode 104, All or Nothing, with CEO Lola Manekin. Now do you see, says Krishna. In this mortal life, you must walk by faith. You must walk by faith, not by the sight of your limited human vision. In order to walk by faith, you must gradually learn to trust me and my guidance. You must gradually learn to surrender your will. You cannot steer your Dharma with the vehicle of self-will, the will of the small self. Self-will will always steer you toward delusion, toward forgetfulness, toward separation. This self-will, driven by the grasping of small self, is the greatest enemy of freedom and oneness. And that excerpt was taken from the book, The Great Work of Your Life by Stephen Cope, the third week in a row that I'm reading out of this because it is producing gems for me, personally and professionally. This book is amazing. It really has helped me take more appreciation into my work, into my truest self, and remembering my true self. And it's crazy how the work actually reminds me, like diving deep into the work and just putting my entire being into the work has allowed me to remember who I truly am and the power behind the true self. It's amazing. And in that quote, Stephen Cope is pulling from the Bhagavad Gita, which is a religious text in the Hinduism religion. In the Indian culture, they really study this book, and I just bought it and I'm starting to read it now, and I haven't got into it yet, so I'm very excited to start that. But in this excerpt, Krishna is basically revealing himself as God and how we need to have faith in him. And that's been the biggest struggle for me, is just having faith. Like, you know, getting out of my own way and just trusting the process and trusting the work that I put in and forgetting about the fruits of my labor, not making that a thing, and just trusting my work and putting my entire self into my art and trusting that God will take care of the rest. Like, that is so hard, right? Because we always want to kind of guide our own ship. We always want to point ourselves in the direction that we need to go. We have these plans and we try to maneuver our life to fit those plans, and sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes God has other plans for us, and It's been very, very eye-opening for me. It's kind of like remembering who you are, remembering that God is in control, and that we need to have faith in that, and that by doing the right things, we strengthen that faith. We strengthen who we truly are, and the right things will produce the right things, if that makes sense. It's tough to have faith, man. It's tough to have faith, but you gotta have it. And it's texts like these that remind me of that. And it's hard because it's like, you get so busy in everyday distractions that you forget to have faith, and things pop up and you're like, why did this happen? Oh my goodness. Like, why is this happening to me right now? But it's all a part of the path. It's to make you stronger, to learn lessons that you need to learn at that moment. And you just have to have faith. It's hard, but you just got to do it. And if anybody can talk to you about having faith, it's today's guest, Lola Manekin. She had faith when she moved to the States from Brazil. She moved to Florida, and then she moved to Baltimore and created the Movement Lab, which is an amazing studio where they use movement exercise to really flow with one's being and to release a lot of tension and stress and just be one with the universe. And now Lola is taking another leap of faith and moving back to Brazil for a year to kind of realign herself and her mission. And if anybody can talk about having faith, it is definitely Lola. I'm very excited about my conversation with her today. Before we get into that, I want to remind you that you can reach out to me or the show at yoursuperiorself.com. Leave me a message, or you can click contact and send me a direct message to do that. It goes right to my email. Or you can check me out on social media. I'm on Facebook at Trey Downs, Instagram at TDowns80, and on Twitter at DownsTrey. Leave me a message. I love hearing I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing your feedback and thoughts about the show. I love to get guest requests, and I just love contacting the audience. I love hearing your feedback. It's amazing. And I just, I've been really meeting some great people. 2020 has been an amazing year for the show. I've contacted and reached out to some amazing guests, and I'm excited to release those episodes later in the year. I just had an episode with Aubrey Marcus, and that was a powerful spiritual conversation, and I'm excited about my upcoming episode with Stephen Kotler. It's just been amazing, and I just want to take a moment to say thank you guys for listening. Thank you for your support. It has been a dream come true for me, and I hope that you guys get a lot of value out of this. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Lola Manekin. What's going on, Lola? How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So I'm just, obsessed with what you've created here in Baltimore. I think it's Baltimore Movement Lab.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that. Like, where did the idea come from?
Well, I grew up in an island in Brazil, and movement has always been a part of our day-to-day lives, outdoor sports and dance, rhythm, music has always been part of my life since I was little. And I don't think I've ever had to see exercise as a thing, because we just naturally moved our bodies. And when I moved to the United States, I started going to the gym with my husband and doing like elliptical and treadmills. And I wanted to shoot myself because it was the most boring thing I've ever done in my life. I just hated it. So I was at that time, I had just graduated in acupuncture school. And I was just growing my practice as an acupuncturist. And my sister-in-law came back from Kripalu, and she said, "Oh my God, Lola, I took this class in Kripalu that you would love it. He has some dance and some martial arts and some yoga. So the next day I came to my office and I asked my business partner at the time, I said, Erin, dance, martial arts, yoga, what is that? And she said, Google Nia. So I Googled Nia, and when I saw the description, saying that it's a fitness, but it's also a lifestyle practice that blends dance, martial arts, and healing arts with the intention of getting people back into their bodies. I was really, really curious about it, but because there was no Nia in Baltimore, and it's also part of my constitution is just to something that excites me, I just go straight for it. I signed up for a Nia training a couple months later in Portland, Oregon, and I took the Nia training and I felt madly in love with it. It just brought me right back home into my body, and I reconnected with that joy of movement, which is actually one of the number one principle of Nia, which is when we're in touch with life force moving through us. So anyway, I grew a Nia community in Baltimore from nobody. I was the only teacher here. And I knocked in every yoga studio, every basement of church, every gym, and I begged everybody to let me teach a free demo class. And slowly the doors started opening and the community grew to a point that, because the very beginning I kept telling my husband, as you know, he's a developer. And I kept saying, I want my own studio. And he's like, you're not ready. I want my own studio. So when he saw in one of the events, how many people were in the class, he looked at me and he said, I think you're ready. So when I was designing Movement Lab, I was trying to figure out what other movement forms that get people to reconnect back with that playfulness of being in the body, and to use fitness as a consequence of why they're moving instead of the reason why they're moving. So every class that I looked at Movement Lab was like, would I take this class? If the answer was yes, it will be a part of our programming.
But you're just so like into it. Like I see pictures of you on Facebook and on Instagram. Like I feel like you're in another dimension when you're doing some of these classes. Like you are just your entire spirit is in it.
Yeah. I always say that, the way that I show up in my most authentic self is when I am moving my body. I cannot be in my body and in my head at the same time. That's for sure. And then why am I in my body? Sometimes I'm teaching and I would say something. I'm like, oh shit, did I just say that? It's just like things just, come out. I'm like, ugh. But I think that the community are used to it by now. So I
So
get,
what
I
is
get
that? Like a flow? Like, are you in flow?
I think so. For Nia, yeah, it's almost, some classes more than the other. This may sound very woo-woo right now, but I think that most of the times I become this vessel to something that it's way more powerful than me. My mental gets out of the way, my ego gets out of the way, and I have this deep, deep connection to music. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I mean, God knows how many times I spend listening to music and finding new playlists. So when those two things come together, it's like this click, and I am not in charge anymore. I just allow myself to be guided.
That takes a lot of like confidence, though, right? Like, I mean, you gotta one be coordinated enough to do that in front of a class, and then two to kind of like put yourself out there in front of strangers. Like, how do you like find the courage to do that?
Mm, I remember the first class when I came back from training. I emailed all my close friends and my, mother-in-law and sister-in-laws, and I said, I need to teach this class and I need you guys to come. And I was, in Nia, mainly our routines that we learn, they are choreographed. And they basically have this 52 moves that are the building blocks of all the routines that we dance to. But this 52 moves were created after studying the way that our bodies were designed to move. So for example, the foot, that it has the bigger bone, the calcaneus. So ideally, we should be walking on a heel lead where the heel touches the floor first, and then the rest of the foot goes. So all these 52 moves were created in a way that the body was designed to move. So I taught that routine, and I was really, really nervous. But I remember my mother-in-law, who has always been super supportive of me, but she also is not. She wouldn't say something if it wasn't true. And she pulled me aside after class, and she said, you were born to do this, right? So I still have a little bit of a nervousness in the beginning of every class, but I think it keeps me humble, like
Yeah.
I don't ever want to lose that. But I also got to a point again where I know that this serves so much, and this is my gift to my tribe. So
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's I mean, it's a gift that you had to find, like, not it wasn't necessarily like in front of your face, like you had to go through it, right? Like your life journey to find that gift.
Yeah, I think he has always been inside of me, and he has just been remembered when I forgot. I always say that this, being a human being living life is this dance between remembering and forgetting. We remember who we are, and then we forget who we are. And I feel like it was the same thing. I had forgotten and disconnected that part of me because I moved to from a third world country to a, first world country. And here, everybody, it's like a million times faster. Life here is so much faster. And there was a part of me that was forgotten. And it took going through that training and being back in my body. It was like, oh, that's right. This is who I am. So I feel like I've always had those gifts ready to be sparkled.
That's powerful. Yeah. I mean, like how old were you when you came to the States?
It's actually only been 15 years. I was 26 at the time. Feels like a million years though.
Like like how do you like describe that? Like coming from Brazil and then coming to the States, you're in your 20s. Like what was
Mhm.
your expectations? Did you have any, or did you have an idea? Like, I mean, you came straight to Baltimore, right?
No, so I actually went to Florida, to Naples, and my husband keeps saying I went backwards from an island in Brazil to Florida to Baltimore. I told him I'm not going any further north than this, that's for sure. But uh, I only came. It was supposed to be for 4 months. They hired this people from all over the world to work during the break here. And I knew I didn't want to go work in ski stations anywhere. I wanted to go to Florida. And when I finished the 4 months, it was time to go back home, but I had already finished my college. And I graduated in natural therapies, what's called naturology. And I learned how to treat patients with all these different kinds of natural therapies. So when I decided to stay in Florida, call my mom, said not coming back. I need a little more time here. But I don't, I'm very in the moment, Trey, so I don't plan ahead.
Hmm.
I don't have a map for my life other than tomorrow, maybe.
Mm.
And it was like in the moment, like my mom, as hurt as she was, she certainly wasn't surprised by my decision. So I stayed in Florida, and I went to massage school, and I started working, as a massage therapist down there. And it was amazing because the main difference between being in Brazil is that I always had this idea that here in the United States, if you work, you can make money, right? And then making money can look different depending on who is thinking about that.
Hmm.
But when we're making, when we're trying to survive with $1,000 a month in Brazil, right? And when we come here and we work hard and we realize, I'm actually going to speak in first person. I come here and I realize that if I work my ass off the way that I was already working in Brazil, that I can actually pay my bills, buy that little dress that I love.
Mm-hmm.
I had a nice little car that I could have never be driving one of those in Brazil. Um, so it was an amazing experience. It's like I was a hardworking person, but I always felt like I got something back from it.
Mm.
Not only the financial rewards, but also the amount of people that I met along the way, these angels,
Hmm.
that fell from everywhere in my
Mm.
life that helped me to have the books that I needed to go to school, or that helped me finance my car because I didn't have credit. There was a lot of those angels for sure.
So what I hear is, you took a step towards your dreams. You didn't really know what that looked like, but you kind of took a leap of faith, and the universe or God or whatever you believe in, like, helped you along the way.
For sure. And I feel
Um,
like that continues to happen.
Now, how come you couldn't afford a car in Brazil? Is it the value of the dollar? Is it that much different? Or, like, how come you could afford more things here? Is it just because the actual opportunities of getting a job?
Yeah, that's one of them, right? This, especially when I graduated from naturology, that was a brand new course, and people weren't willing to spend the money on that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a long time, what I actually did, I was tutoring. All of my aunts are teachers in different schools. And in my entire life since I was 13, I would tutor kids younger than me in, you name it, math, English, Portuguese, and but it's still like I would work if I had to do like the 1 real, which is the money in Brazil for $1. I worked my entire week to make 150 reais a week, which is, let's say that if you do one-on-one, it's like I worked all week long to make $150 a week. So that's, times four. That was my salary, $600 a month.
Hmm.
So I couldn't afford a car
Mm-hmm.
and food, and it's just
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Yeah.
insane. Like the difference. Like it's nuts. Like, what would you be doing if you were back in Brazil? Like, I mean, have you ever thought about that?
I know. I haven't thought about it because I'm actually going back next year with my family for a year to live
A
there.
year. Wow.
Yeah, I'm actually homesick for the very first time. I've never been homesick before. And then Thibaut, he's like, "All right, babe, I know that you've been holding the fort here for
Mm-hmm.
me for 15 years, and now it's my turn. And we want to give our boys, we want to take advantage. They're still young,
Mm-hmm.
and we want them to live the culture down there. And it's going to be different to go down there and actually not have to, work
Yeah.
to make $150 a week. So I'm looking forward to that too. And I think that from the place, there's always a lot of more possibilities because I know I'm not going to not do anything,
Yeah.
but I'm going to find the stuff that makes my heart smile. I'm going to find yoga studios there and see if I can teach Nia and Budokan, and I'm going to be finally spending more time with my kids. I feel like I don't spend a lot of time with them here.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. I have an uncle down there who owns a very successful company that produces equipment for dentists, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like he exports that all over the world. So I always thought that the worst case scenario, I'll ask a job in his company. So maybe that's what I would be doing.
Well, if you started like your own like little thing down there, your own business, do you think there's a market for that down there, or have you been just unplugged for too long that you kind of don't have an idea?
Yeah, I don't have an idea. No idea.
Well, I mean, it's exciting, right? I mean, to be able to go down there and see where they're at now, and see if you can start something. Like you could be the first, movement lab down there, and kind of start something like a chain or something. Like who knows?
Yeah, no, I'm in the moment. I am not interested in doing that. I'm really going to rest and to spend time with my man and my two little men. And actually, my grandparents are still alive. I have a gigantic family that I haven't spent time with in 15 years.
Mm. So, are you going to
But
sell up here and then move down there, or are you still going to kind of?
no, so I am preparing the studio. Lots of changes are happening right now, which is really, really scary. This 3 months has been the biggest growth of my life in relationship to Movement Lab,
Mhm.
because what I thought I knew what I was doing, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Lots of changes in the schedule, in the memberships, in the pricing. A lot of help from the community because I did reach out to a nice handful, maybe two handfuls of people that I trust. And I said, I need help. And they all step up and they're like, we got you. So I am doing everything that I can right now in terms of the putting together a board of advisors who are going to help someone, I'm going to find someone to manage to be like in my position.
Mhm.
And then I also I think this is a great opportunity for the teachers to
Grow.
exactly step up their games,
Yeah.
and really be more of who they are, because they're freaking amazing people and they're masters at what they do, and it's like, all right, guys, you need to go for it. It's a all or nothing that we got to here.
Wow, that's a lot. That's as a business owner, that's a lot of trust. I mean, you're going to have a board of trustees or an advisory board or whatever you plan on doing. But to totally disconnect from your business, that is that's brave. I mean, not a lot of people will do that, but not a lot of people will move down to Brazil for a year to connect more deeply with their family, and that's tremendous.
Hmm.
I think that your boys are gonna have the time of their lives. I mean, I think it might be a little bit of a culture shock.
For sure.
Coming from Baltimore, I could the only way that I mean, I'm just imagining what my kids would be like, right? Like, so I have three kids, 9, 7, and 10, 11 months,
Hmm.
and I look at my two older ones, and I'm like, man, if we move to like anywhere, and just thinking about what you're talking about, like if we move somewhere that was just totally different, you know, I don't know what the city is like down there, or if, what the technology is, but I don't know. It would probably be a good thing, right? Like, I mean, to disconnect, to reconnect, really. I mean, get out of the iPads, get out of the laptops,
Hmm.
and to really explore like the culture, take that in more, more hiking, more taking in nature, more, a culture that is just diverse, like the one that is down there. Like, I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I am from this gorgeous island. It's called Florianopolis, and there's 42 beaches all around, and there's this big lagoon right in the middle of it. My dad, he's a fisherman there, and he can't wait, to get the
Mm,
boys and take them out fishing. Tibo and the boys are surfers, so they're probably
sweet.
gonna surf every day. So it's definitely reconnecting with.
Jeez, like I want to go down there now for like a
Mm,
year. Are you kidding me? Surf every
yeah.
day and fish?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
that's the life, to
Hmm.
disconnect totally. That's the thing, right? Like, I feel like, oh man, the world is changing so much. Like, the American dream is evolving more. It's not like the white picket fence and the whatever. Now
Hmm.
it's like, I think we're changing. The culture is changing to be targeted more towards the, I don't know, maybe the the well-being of one's life, the taking care of like one personally, in the sense that, you know, doing what you're doing, but the moving to a place where you can reconnect with yourself. It's not so much of like buying the biggest house on the block and, you know, buying the best car or whatever. Like, it's more like I'm looking at life more so of how I can get better, like each and every day. Like, how can I be better than I was yesterday? And if I can live somewhere where I can, sustainably live like that, like that's all I care about, right? Like, if I could live somewhere like in Brazil where I could go fishing every day and surf and just meditate and, run. I mean, that is like a dream.
Mm. We want the kids to see a different reality. Their reality here is like the Truman Show. So we want them to see what life is really about outside this bubble. And even though we do, especially Tebow, it was actually, they called me on Sunday, and I actually called them, and I said, Tebow answered the phone. And before I said anything, the boys start screaming on the back, "Mom, Dad is taking us to a neighborhood to pick up trash. Can you come get us?" I'm like, no way, dudes. So Tebow does a phenomenal job, taking our kids. They call it Neighborhood Day. He takes them to, crazy neighborhoods in Baltimore, and he pulls a basketball and they play in these neighborhoods, hoping that the neighbors will come and the kids will come and play. And they have been in rough situations, and for me, knowing that that's what they're doing, and I'll be like, you have to trust that everything is going to be fine. Mm-hmm. But our kids, they know a little bit due to the effort that Tebow makes, so they can be exposed to other things too. But I think that's going to be like next level for them.
They have just no idea, do they?
No idea. And also I have Latina families are very warm. And every time that they go to Brazil, my mom and my aunts and my dad, they spend the day like hugging them and kissing them. And, and it's amazing that they already feel so connected to it. So it's just going to get better.
That's awesome. Like that's going to be, I don't know. I'm excited for you. I think that's going to be a great transition.
Yeah. And I'm also, there's some beautiful places there. I'm hoping to run a couple retreats because I don't want my community and my tribe to feel abandoned by me, because they're so important in my life. And I'm really nervous to go there and be like, who am I? Who am I without this role? So I'm gonna, that's probably the way that I'm gonna do a little more work, is to figure out a way of running a few retreats where they can also come down and spend time and experience a little bit of that magic.
It's another chapter in your life. Not knowing where it's going to go, but taking that first step, right? Like the same step not the same step, but like taking the first step to come to the US, to not really know exactly what you wanted to do. Like you were working, during the break, and then after the break, you're like, I don't want to leave. Like, I want to stay here. But like, you didn't know what that looked like, right?
No.
Same thing here, right? You don't know what that, you're going to go down there for a year. You have family. You're a little bit more financially stable. You have a backup plan. Like, you have insurance in case, you want to move back to Baltimore. But who knows? You might end up staying down there for longer than a year.
Don't tell Tebow that.
But I've always wanted to do that. Like, I've always wanted to go somewhere. Like, I've heard stories of like families getting on like a sailboat or a yacht or something like that, and like traveling the world and like homeschooling their kids on the boat, and like just traveling the ocean and going to these different countries and seeing the world. And it's like, man, like if I could just talk my wife into just doing something like that, like, I mean, let's just get an RV. You know what I mean? Like, let's just get an RV and like travel the U.S. because there's so many different like beautiful spots in the United States that I've never seen. Like, like the Grand Canyon, like Colorado, Montana. Like, I mean, it's just insane, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. The more that I think about it, like, It's like the commercial that I just saw like yesterday. The one where the family builds the house in the snow globe, and
Mm.
and everybody, outside is like Florida, and then the dad wanted to live or live somewhere where they had a white winter, so they built a snow globe over their house, and I'm like, man, if that
Mm.
is not the picture of like a typical American house, or not house, but like family, like just in this bubble, and like we think that we have experienced life, but we really haven't because we haven't been anywhere, right? And it's not that it's our fault, right? It's just the way that we're programmed. I mean, technology, right? Like, I mean, technology is, hindering us. I can Google photos of Brazil, and I might feel like I've been there, or I might feel connected through that, but it's like unless I actually go there, I'm not gonna feel that connection. I feel like we're just, like I said earlier, like we need to disconnect to reconnect.
Hmm. And it's easy to get comfortable here,
Mm.
to get a comfortable life and a comfortable routine. And it is, despite all the changes that are happening, it is a comfortable country to be in,
Yeah.
safe. And so it's just easy to fall into that.
Well, it's also like I think it's one of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like the one where it's like security and just being, like you said, comfortable. It's just like staying here and working 30 years for retirement, like that's comfortable, right? Like that's security. But like doing what you're doing, like to just pick up and move, like that's not the routine thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean, I
you
mean
guys got to
that's
do it.
yeah, yeah. I mean that's awesome, but yeah, I mean that's insane. Like your husband, like is he kind of like has it hit him yet?
I think, he's working in that beautiful Lexington Market project, and I admire him really well. That, and I think it's probably a man thing. I don't think you guys can think of two things at the same time. So he's really focused on that, and which is good. So he's here, his head is here, his heart is here. I'm already half there, half here. So he's not, we're like, oh shit, we got to put our apartment for rent.
He's hoping you forget. He's like,
Yeah, yeah, like we haven't done a thing. We haven't packed a box to get out of this apartment. We were living in 3 months.
oh man, that's insane. Like to pack up your boys to your kids and then him and then
The
the
dog to come
dog. Like
too. Yeah.
that's just so much work. I don't know. Like I unpacked our house. We just moved. Last year we built a home, and we had one of those storage units come to our house, and I packed that thing up to the brim with some friends, and then like we moved, and then I had to unpack it. I did it like in 3 days, but I highly suggest that you plan it out at least a week. Don't do it in 3 days because it is very stressful. And my wife was pregnant, and it was just like it was chaos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, going back to the business, like what started like the idea? I mean, I know that you had the classes out west, right? Like you got trained and certified, but like, what gave you the idea for the movement lab? Like, was it the training and the certification that was like, I'm going to go start my own business, or was it like something else?
Yeah, no. So after Nia, I wanted my studio right away, and apparently I wasn't ready for it, which he was right. I wasn't ready for it. And then when he said that I was ready for it, I spent a year doing like focus groups, with the people that were I was teaching at the Baltimore Yoga Village, which is another studio here in Baltimore, and I love Anjali, the owner. And so I put a bunch of my friends who were teachers there. They would come to my class, and I ask a bunch of questions of what do we need more of, and it was like a little bit of a team effort of what does Baltimore need, and it was again. And I remember also sitting with Tebow, because at that point I also had I've I've never, until I got trained in Budokan yoga, which is like a yoga that it's highly infused with martial arts. Yoga has never been my thing. And when I heard about aerial yoga, I'm like, that sounds more fun. So when I Googled aerial yoga certification without being a yoga teacher, anti-gravity fitness came up, and that's when I did all the trainings in anti-gravity. And I set up the anti-gravity hammocks at Matt's CrossFit studio, Clipper Mill, I think that's what it's called. And I taught, again, anti-gravity to the 3 or 4 people that heard that I was teaching there and kept coming. But from that place, I already recruited 3 or 4 of them to now go get their certification. So when the studio opened, we had more teachers to teach. So I kind of have been like, I was planting the seed, and I met with people for a whole year asking what they want to learn. And again, one people sent me to another and another, and I found the people that would get trained in jumping fitness, which is a completely different, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's not new. We all know how trampolines are,
Mm-hmm.
important for the body. But there isn't a lot of fitness classes like that. So I found a few people who would be willing to get the training so they could teach a movement lab. So yeah, a whole year planting a lot of seeds.
Well, how do you
uh,
find like these types of courses, like anti-gravity and different
mhm.
types of yoga? Like, how do you learn about it? Is it just in the industry? Like, how do you know about this?
Yeah, it's like the perfect time, the anti-gravity was that. I didn't even know, like I literally put in the Google that enormous sentence, area yoga certification without being a yoga teacher, and then
Yeah.
anti-gravity popped up, and I read the description. And anti-gravity is basically the main umbrella, and you can learn under anti-gravity fundamentals, restorative, yoga, suspension fitness. So I went for a whole year. I got trained in every single one. I am a instructor specialty. I know all the anti-gravity trainings. I can teach them all. But again, once I got it, and I already start recruiting the people for them to also go get the training. And then for every time that I would go to Brazil for a week, I would go to a gym and I would see what they're doing. So I went there and I took this amazing kickboxing class, Muay Thai
Mm.
kickboxing. And it was this class packed, with 50 people. And I couldn't feel my arms for like 10 days after that class. So I'm like, okay, we got to bring Muay Thai to Movement Lab. So, I start looking for people who are Muay Thai teachers in Baltimore, Muay Thai gyms. Um, and then Budokan, I was in this Lululemon retreat, and someone was talking to someone else, and I overheard them saying, it's this yoga class, but it feels more like you're dancing. I'm like, excuse me, what is it called, the yoga class that you're talking about that feels like you're dancing? They're like, oh, it's Budokan. So I went home, I Googled Budokan.
That's crazy. It's like everything.
Yeah,
It's like little like seeds like that just pop up along your journey. Like that's nuts.
totally. It's just keeping my eyes and my ears and my heart open, which is basically my prayer. My everyday prayer
Mm-hmm.
is, may I open my eyes, my ears, and my heart to be able to see and hear and feel no more of what's truth. So,
Yeah. You're just so spiritual. Like I just feel it. Like you're just like the spiritual being. Like I know when you came to Joe McClinsky's Complicated Conversations, like my favorite part of the day, outside of moving around and dancing and you getting everybody geared up was the meditation part. Like you talking to us, like that was my favorite part of the day. And my father-in-law, Joe's dad, he even said like his favorite part was when you were giving us the meditation part, like talking to us and calming our minds. And he said he actually did it the next day just to kind of get back to that feeling. But it's like you just have this sense about you, like this essence, like this calming essence. This, people. I've heard great stories. I've haven't been to one of your classes. I really want to go before you go because I can't. I want to get in there before you leave. You're going to be
I'd
gone
love to
probably
have
for a
you.
long time. But just the energy, man. Like you can't teach the energy.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll blame my
It's,
parents. They're very
but
spiritual beings.
I mean, I feel like, I don't know, you get a lot of your inspiration from Brazil.
Yeah, Chinese medicine. This year, I signed up a contract with the universe when I decided to offer a 1 year program called Heron's Journey. And it was basically backed up by the Chinese medicine, which is the master. I have the master's degree in acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and it's in 5 elements acupuncture. So that has been my training. And basically, the way that we see it is like the 5 elements, which is water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. We're in the cycle of creation, and how each of those elements they have a gift, a blessing that happens when we are in alignment with those elements. And then we have our shadow side, which what happens when we forget that, which kind of was telling the beginning, this forgetting and remember, when I forget my authentic power, that part of me that it's just naturally powerful when I sit in enough stillness to feel that, then there's all these layers of fear, controlling, and we all have these two sides, whether we like it or not. So basically, the Heron's Journey, this whole year, I took this group of 40 women on a once a month journey. 1 month we learned the blessings of the elements, and then the next month we learned the shadow of it. And the way that I did it is that I'm still doing. We have one more month left. Is through embodiment, because there is a teaching moment, but it's really in the body that they can feel, their authentic power. But also it's in their body they can allow their fear to move through. And that has been the biggest learn of my life, even though I signed that to teach them. I have learned so much in this entire process about myself and about the moments that I am in my authentic self, and the
Mm.
moments that I lose it. But the beauty of it is like to know it all. Now, nothing has to be wrong or right. It's almost like this is what it is in this moment, and now this is what it is in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're constantly changing, just like the elements, just like nature, just like the seasons. So it's been one of the most powerful process I have
Mm.
ever been a part of. And Joe always says that we teach what we need to learn, and it's really what that became. I kept learning literally as I was ready to teach them. So it was phenomenal. I have this mentor in Seattle. Her name is Tiffany, and she's been amazing guiding me. She's been doing this for way longer than I have. And I told her the idea, and she said, I got you. I'm going to help you to create this. So yeah, that's the growing of this 2019.
That's all. Well, I want to point out that you have a mentor, right? Like, I think everybody needs to get one just because it keeps us accountable and it really helps us point us in the direction that we sometimes we don't see. And like, I'm just fascinated with like your methods. Like, so when you're in the season of winter, right? Like when you're having a bad, I don't know, couple of days, or you're in a rut, like how do you change your mindset? Like how do you get back into that positive thinking?
I actually don't try to
No.
I anymore. No, it's I've learned how to be more quiet, so my tribe, my closest friends know that if I'm not around as much, it's because I'm in that place. And even my kids, I would say, guys, mom is not feeling it today. I need a little more space. And they're like, we got you, but I feel like I'm also teaching when they need space, they know how to ask for it too. So I think my biggest learning is to not try to change. It's because I know that, that I cannot be in that state for too long because we are changing constantly. So I've learned how to embrace this moment and I just triple my self-care. What is it that I need? Is it like this morning? I had an intense weekend and I knew I needed to just turn my phone off and I turned my tub on and I sat in the water and I sat quiet there for like an hour, no music, no nothing, no electronic, just with my thoughts. So it's almost not trying to change anymore what is. It's embracing and just knowing that it's gonna move through me at some point, and sometimes it moves faster than other times. And it's very uncomfortable because especially, this my personality I'm a go-getter, and it's like, what? I cannot change this, but I can change everything else around me, but no, I cannot change this state. I have to be in this discomfort until I learn what I need to learn from it. And then it's going to move through.
So you just not hold on to it, but you kind of filter it, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of something, I guess, what I'm hearing. Instead of trying to change your mindset and doing some techniques or some practices or mindset practices, you're basically just sitting with it and feeling every bit of it.
Mm-hmm. And I do, the reason the practice ended up coming in, but it's not to shift what is, it's
Mm-hmm.
just like it's part of my self-care. So I do meditate or I'll, do some breath work. But again, it's not trying to shift, it's just to be like, how can I be so gentle and tender with myself in this moment instead of being hard and being like, but you shouldn't be feeling this way. It's more of like, okay, honey, here, take some milk and cookies.
That's awesome. Like, what's like your daily routine? Like, what is it that you do when you wake up and you have to get this done for today?
hmm So I drop the kids, I have them in most mornings with the exception of Thursdays when I go for Budokan at 8 a.m., which actually I think you would love that class too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I drop the kids off in school and I usually come back home and I have a biomat at home. Have you heard of a biomat?
No, never.
It's I mean, I don't know how to explain it a lot, but it's basically this mat that my friend sold hers to me and it's filled with amethysts and you turn it on and it gets hot and it basically has the effect of like an infrared treatment. So I lay down on the biomat for 1 hour and I plug in my earphones and I do some sort of like meditation. I've been loving doing some shamanic journeys.
Hmm.
So I usually go and I do that, and that's how I start most of my days. And then after that, I just, go take a shower and go to movement lab. And sometimes I train, sometimes I take classes, sometimes I teach. Right now, I've been spending a lot of time meeting with every single teacher and see where they're at, see if they're still on board with who we are and the mission. And so basically, I pack and I go to Movement Lab and I stay there until it's time to pick up the boys in school at 3, 4 o'clock, and I come home and then I have them.
It's awesome.
hmm
How do you like? How do you disconnect from your business though? Like, I know that it's your life. Like, your business is who you are. How do you disconnect from that and become a mother at home at like 4 o'clock?
I don't. It's really hard,
No.
especially now. No, especially now that the kids are very independent. When they were smaller, they would be like, "Mommy, come play with me, come play with me." But now they don't care that I'm around. So I honestly, I don't disconnect. I'm cooking dinner and my phone is on, and if I get a text message, I respond. So it's there, but now I feel like I have an amazing team who takes care of mostly of the day-to-day things. So if someone doesn't show up to teach their class, right? They forgot or
Mm.
they something happened, like I don't get these text messages anymore, so I'm way less connected to the day-to-day things. Someone responds all the emails to Movement Lab, so I don't have to do that anymore.
That's nice.
So it's, oh my God, nice. That's like the best thing that has ever happened to me.
So
Uh,
people see you right now, like successful businesswoman in Baltimore, but they don't see the grind, right? They don't see the path, right? And like describe some of the hardships. Like, did you ever doubt yourself? Did you ever want to give up? Like, what was some of the harder times for you?
yeah, I feel like I'm actually going through one of the hardest time right now. The first 2 years of Movement Lab, we did really, really amazing. We have been paying our bills since day one, which is unheard of. And this year, I have decided to make bigger investments in advertise in this video that looks amazing, and it was totally worth it. And that pulled, that pulled us back a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. And so I fear, I fear that still every day that we're not going to make it. I fear that the teachers that I love and work for me are going to leave. I feel like, especially where we are right now, it's literally where I am right now. So it's actually very easy to talk about. I think that Movement Lab doesn't fit into a category of a yoga studio because that's not what we are. But it also doesn't fit into the category of a gym, right? So we are the middle child
Mm-hmm.
going through puberty, and we're like trying to figure out who we are.
But that's
Um,
good, right? Like you don't want to be like everybody. Like I don't. I feel like you don't want to be in a category. Like why
mhm,
you? Why would you want to fit yourself into that? Like you're something totally different.
No, you're right. It's good like 90% of the time. And then there's a part of like that, there's the part that it's like, okay, the easiest thing would be if we were something. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
So it's
Because they've
just
done
what
it
it
right. Like
is.
there's a business plan for a yoga studio. There's no business plan for Movement Lab, right? Like you guys are basically paving the way for your genre of dance, your genre of meditation, your genre of living healthy, right? I mean that
Totally.
like you're paving the way right now, and it's not going to be easy. It's there's no category you can select on Facebook ads that are kind of going to fit the mold. You
Totally.
know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
but that's unique. Like you are very different from a
Hmm.
lot of people, from a lot of studio owners. I think that by putting yourself in a box, you're kind of limiting your ability to grow and scale, right? Like you need to be, being different is awesome. Like, everybody, I hate this analogy. I hate it, but I'm going to say it. Apple, right? Like they're always different. I hate talking
Hmm.
about Apple because everybody talks about Apple, but they're they're different because they're innovators. They're different. Like, and I feel like you're an innovator of holistic health.
Totally. Totally. We're a very spiritual studio. I know you've heard Joe talk about us, and sometimes it takes someone from outside to remind me what Movement Lab is.
Mm.
Sometimes I get caught up on like what makes us different, and then someone out of the blue will pull me at Whole Foods and be like, Lola, I just want you to know how, this has saved my life. And I'm like, really? How? So yeah, it's a beautiful thing, but it's my work, and it's where all my insecurities come from, is
Mm.
to be able to continue to own that uniqueness and not give in or give up,
Yeah.
so.
I think that's amazing. Like I feel like you should push the envelope a little bit more. Like what else could you do to be different? Like I mean you're already doing anti-gravity. What is it? Anti-gravity yoga? Is that what it is?
Yeah, anti-gravity. Yeah.
Like that's nuts. Like nobody's doing that right now.
hmm
Like I feel like you could just crush the market right now just because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some studios now that are kind of seeing what we're doing and buying a few
Of course,
hammocks.
of course.
But we're definitely, even for anti-gravity itself, like there isn't another anti-gravity studio in the world that has as many hammocks as we do.
Hmm.
So we are like the model studio for many, many of those unique classes.
What else? What are some other classes that you provide that are different?
Well, the jumping fitness, the individual trampolines, it's a kick-ass 45 minutes class that you basically die, but
Hmm.
it's amazing. And we offer a dance class for adults, which is actually something all that, because when I moved to Baltimore, I was trying to figure out how to not go to the gym. So I would Google like jazz for adults, and it would be
Hmm.
like all these options of like kids series and jazz for kids. So I was trying to figure out also how to bring these classes that we love doing also as adults for us. So we offered jazz for adults, and they killed it. They're amazing. We have hip hop classes for adults. Budokan yoga. We are the only Budokan studio, I'm gonna dare to say, in Maryland, at least in Maryland.
Hmm.
But Budokan yoga is a yoga that it's when people watch the videos, they feel a little bit scared by it.
Intimidated.
It is, yeah, it is a little intimidating, but Professor Jamal, there's only six Budokan black belts in the world, and we happen to have one of them under our roof. So Professor Jamal makes classes super um, inclusive and amazing, and he's amazing. So I think it's more of like people just have to go over there, get over their own fears
Mm.
and give it a try, and just know that it's like, of course you're not going to get it right the first time. What is it that you do one time and you get it right? Like there isn't such thing. Like I have been doing Budokan for 2 years, between 3 to 5 times a week, and I still cannot do a handstand, and I'm like, I'm not giving up on this.
Like you can't do a handstand, like just a simple handstand, or
It's just it. I can't get to it, but I can't. Some people can stay there and do splits, and like I
mm.
can't do that. If I can count my handstand for 5 seconds, it's my lucky day. But it's like, yeah, I get strong every single time. Budokan has this. It's a 7 section practice. So we basically do the same moves for an entire hour in every class. And there's not one single time that I feel like, ha, I nailed this one, because
Mm.
every time that I feel like I got something better, he comes close to me and he fixes something else. Like,
But
damn,
you want that, right? Like you want that.
totally, totally. I
You don't
want
want to
it
be
to look
perfect every
beautiful.
time. You want to leave room for improvement. You always want to raise that bar. Um, do you
Absolutely.
do any type of meditation classes there?
We call it floating yoga nidra. And
Wow, that
uh,
sounds like very, very interesting.
oh, all of our floating classes, it's basically an excuse for you to lay down on a hammock and pass out.
I
Um,
was thinking because like floating, I'm thinking like you're like on top of like water or something like that.
yeah, no, so we basically, the hammocks, the anti-gravity hammocks, have 1,000 different ways that we can use them. And so we use them for floating classes. So either whether it's a meditation, we have this class called the Gong Bath by David Martin. David has this beautiful, enormous gongs, and he brings it into class. And the minute that he starts playing those, you feel like you're in a Pink Floyd concert, and it takes you to an entire new dimension. So we have those classes, and they're available. People just get and come in, lay down on the hammock for 45 minutes and let those gongs do the work. The
Hmm.
frequency of the gongs awaken something in the body, and people cry, people laugh, people sneeze, people sleep. And this is all the different ways that the body is expressing what needs to be brought to surface to be able to be
I
released.
love that. Do you do the meditation like where you're the one talking, like how you did at Joe's event? Like turn off all the lights and just have you speaking on a microphone to a bunch of people in hammocks.
No, I don't offer those as a class. At the end of a NIA class, when I'm doing the cool down, which is a lot of floor movement, usually something will come out of me if I'm inspired, but I don't offer that as a class.
You need to, because I promise you that was like the most relaxed, like intense meditation that I've been a part of. Like to be able to move around. Like first off, you come in, you tell us to take our shoes off. We're at a conference. I'm like, oh God, here we go. Like I didn't know who you were. I was like, oh, all right, take our shoes off. All the lights are out. Next, you're speaking. I think I can't remember if it was like the movement part first and then the meditation, or if it was meditation, movement, meditation. But it was like you work wonders.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So yeah, like before we get to that part, what do you want your legacy to be?
Permission. I want to touch the lives of as many women. Usually, I work with everybody, but I know that my work is mainly with women.
That's fine. Yeah.
And I want to touch as many women as I can by giving them permission to all of it. And I don't know what that's going to look like yet. I feel like I'm still designing, and I'm also in that, I'm in that same stage that Movement Lab is. I'm in puberty, filled with pimples, trying to figure out who am I?
Oh God.
I'm not rushing it, I'm enjoying this process for sure. I know that.
Let me just tell you, puberty for guys and girls are totally different, by the way. So it's like you guys, I feel like you guys become so much more like, I don't know, universal or something. Like, and us guys are just so like Stone Age when we hit puberty. It's crazy. I feel like, but where you're at is exciting because like you have a blank map, right? Like I just released a piece in my latest episode called Success, like a little poem kind of thing, where what I'll do is I'll turn off all the lights and I'll just kind of recite something that's in my head. And one of the things that I said was, this journey that we're on is like a blank map. There's no states, there's no zip codes, there's no streets. And in order for us to get to our destination, wherever that is, or whatever success is to you, like we have to draw that. We have to make the streets, we have to make the cities, the states, the capitals, the oceans, the mountains. Like we have to create that. And it's going to be hard. And there's not going to be somebody behind you saying, hey, you messed up. There's no one there to tell you that you messed up. And it's the most beautiful part of it is it's your creation. It's going to be your work, and how much work you put into it is how much you're going to get out of it. That's how much you're going to get out of that map. So I'm very excited about your next move because I just know that it's going to better Movement Lab. Like this whole transition that you're getting ready to endure or experience is just going to be the beginning of a next chapter, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you for saying that. It's almost like these little reminders that I told you that I get every day. I agree with you.
It's so tough though, because it's so easy to fall into that negative mindset, but it's like, you have to remember that it's our minds telling us, because our minds are automatically trying to save our asses. Like it's automatically trying to get us out of shit that we feel like we can't handle. And it's not the truth. Like, look at the things that we're capable of. I mean, I'm reading Stephen Kotler gave me some recommended reading. One of his books, The Rise of Superman. Like he's talking about the X Games and extreme sports where they are they're they're breaking records, world records that are never been heard of. And
Mm.
look at the marathon runner in this last year who broke the what was it, 2 hour marathon. Like, that's
Mhm.
crazy. Like, just think about the things that the human body is possible of, and that we don't take advantage of certain things because our minds are telling us to be afraid of something that doesn't exist. Like all the fears that you told me earlier, like the fear of not making it, the fear of your trainers leaving you, you
Mhm.
know, are not true.
Mhm.
They're just stories that our minds make up to tell us to get us out of shit.
Mm.
And you have to realize that that's just it. It's just a story that your mind is telling you.
Yeah, limiting
Limiting
beliefs.
belief.
Mhm.
So I'm 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 ready for the next part. I'm ready for you to talk to us like you did at Joe's complicated conversations. I think that I think my audience would really, definitely benefit from that.
Mm. No pressure.
No pressure. I mean, I don't have music right now, but it's like,
No, that's okay. I can connect. And basically, this is what I did was basically the journey through the blessings of all the five elements of Chinese medicine. So I can easily, I'll do my best to bring them and see what come out of my mouth.
definitely just let me know when you're done. I will
Okay.
be there, right there with you.
Okay. Sounds good. So finding a comfortable position, ideally closing the eyes or turning the lights off, of finding a little bit of a darkness, which is really what the gift of the winter time and the element of water teaches us, to be able to be in deep stillness in the darkness and not thinking that there's anything that we need to be doing. Connecting with the breath and knowing that the thoughts were always going to be there. And the question is, what do we do with them? So we let them come and go. And then we can sit with the question in that space: where do I connect the most with my authentic power? With the part of me that is unshakable, that it's in alignment with all things and all beings. Where is the place? And then we could continue to following the rhythm of the seasons. Is that little seed that it's been sitting under the earth, quiet, start to find a little stirring when that sun of springtime hits the earth and it starts to push against the soil, finding its way up towards the sun. And that's the part of us that it's manifesting. It's that part of us that it's relentless. You know how much work that it takes for that seed to move through all the obstacles, to find its way up to the sun. So this is an invitation for us to connect with the part of ourselves. How do we manifest in the world? How do we show up? How do we make a way up to the sun What do we do when we face obstacles? Do we push against it? Do we give up? Do we find a way around it and continue going? That's really the gift of the wood element in the springtime. It's our ability of having perspective and looking at the bigger picture. Then we finally reach summertime, which is the element of fire. And in summertime, the nature is in its fullest. The days are longer, and that's because it's time to connect. Summertime is about the heart, is about spending time with friends. It's about connecting with that web and knowing that we belong to each other. It's about trust and it's about presence. We can only connect to someone when we're present to them. So the question for this moment is, how present are we to each moment that life gives us? Presence means having the heart right there over and over again. And then once we find that connection and that playfulness of summertime, we move to the element of earth, which is not really a season, but in Chinese medicine we call it late summer, which is that time in August where it's super damp and the fruits are super juicy. And if we don't eat that mango right now, we're not going to eat it anymore. It's that time that we harvest everything from our summertime. We harvest the learnings, we harvest the friends, we harvest the moments. It's the last chance. And the earth element, it's really about nourishment because the earth is actually holds all the other elements. And earth teaches us abundance. There's plenty of everything. And the inquiry for this moment is, where am I in deep abundance? Abundance with my time, abundance with my presence, with my thinking, with my money, all of it. And when we forget that, we start going to some places of lack, not enoughness. So where are we in that space too that can show up? And then finally, we reach the season of fall, which is the metal element, which is where we are right now, where earth and everything in nature just starts to slowly dying. The trees starts to let go of the leaves. And it really teaches us how to die. And the gift of the metal is really our ability of acknowledgement, things, and then letting them go. And the inquiry to sit with is, how am I acknowledging myself, others, the moment? Acknowledge means seeing value in every single moment. And how am I being able to let go of the things that no longer serve? And once we let go, we go back into that place of the water, into the nothingness, into the stillness and the darkness. And even though the seasons reminds us of that dance, we actually do that dance every millisecond that we are alive. We are manifesting and demanifesting moment by moment. And the choice is, how do I want to manifest in this world? And also the question is, can I demanifest? Because we cannot have one without the other. So may you take this inquiry with you moment by moment in life, remembering to look outside and learning the gifts that nature has for us. And it does it effortlessly. So we can take a deep breath in and open our eyes and look at life in this moment with a whole new, different perspective. Aho. Thank you, Trey.
That is amazing.
Thank you.
How can people connect with you, Lola?
I have a website, lolamanekin.com. Come take my classes at Movement Lab. I Facebook and Instagram, so I'm easy to find.
I love it. Lola, thank you so much for coming on. This has been an honor. This has been one of my favorite conversations, and I'm excited to hear about what you do in the future.
Thank you, Trey. I look forward to seeing you at the lab, and it's been an honor to share this space with you. Thank you for having me.
I want to say thank you to Lola for joining the show and coming on and hanging out and just tearing it up. This has been a very, very interesting conversation, a very powerful conversation. And for you guys out there listening, thank you guys for downloading. Please leave a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts from. It helps me scale the show for others who might need to hear it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Don't forget to head over to yourspareyourself.com, leave me a message, and check me out on all social media. I want to thank my boy Bryce Alvord for producing the music for this week's episode. Guys, check him out, brycealvord.com. Download some of his free content. All right, guys, I will talk to you later.
I stand with Colin Kaepernick, capitalist, I feel like it's no choice. You don't got 100K, you got no voice. You don't got followers, you got no voice. Good luck trying to make it big on a voice. Yeah, it's all a game, it's all a game. Better get your quarters out, gotta play to win. Try not to sin, better hope you make it.